Hey guys, welcome back to Vinsville Custom. So today we're going to do a little bit of a repair. Now this one's kind of tricky. This is, what is it, Lord of the Rings character. And you can see there's a crack on his arm over here. Maybe we get a little bit closer and kind of show you. So there's a crack right here on this arm. Now, there's a couple problems with this. This is kind of tricky. Because there's a crack here, you can kind of twist them a little bit, the arm, because of this crack. So that lets me know there's a metal rod in here. But the problem is you don't know how far this metal rod goes. It could go bend around the arm completely, or it could just be in here. So I have all these magnets I use for a lot of stuff. So this kind of gives you an idea where this magnet is. So when you throw here, there's a little bit of a magnet grab. There's definitely a magnet grab here because there's not a lot of resin. Like I'm hardly even holding this up, and you can see it's grabbing. Around here in the fingers, not grabbing anything. So definitely probably comes to about right here. And then kind of come around over here. Alright, so since this is so high up, I really wouldn't want to risk trying to pull this out, because if I'm actually wrong and it does come in a little bit, I can mess up this wrist over here. And of course, if it's going down here, you never know. So like, if you were to start to wiggle this out, this piece might come out and it might stay in here. Or if you wiggle out, this metal rod might stay here and then it would empty here. So either or would be kind of a pain. And so after looking this over, I decided what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure it's lined up. Because anytime something breaks with a metal rod in there, you can see it splits. You can never really get it lined up again anyway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dremel around the wrist arm here. And then I'm going to do like a little stapling too, like I usually do on some of my repairs. And then I'll fill in with Aves, and then we'll touch up the paint. That's the best option for this that I can do. Really can't go any further. Now, looking at it a little bit close, there seems to be a little bit of a texturizing underneath the arm here. You can see how it cracked up around over here as well. So so the best part is, without going too crazy and really messing this up, we're just going to kind of Dremel and rebuild and repaint. I mean, I could kind of try to split it, but I don't want to break up this whole entire arm. If I break up this whole arm, it just creates more work and it wouldn't line up correctly. So what I'll do is I'm going to go in the garage and I'm going to kind of Dremel this out, and we'll come back and start repairing it. Okay, so I went into the garage and I Dremeled out this piece. Now, we had a little bit of a problem, which I figured was going to happen. Like, I even told the client, I can start working on it, but there could be other problems. But, you always got to expect the worst. So, as I was Dremeling out around this area here, and then I started to come up around here, I noticed there was a little crack coming down here more, but I didn't think it was all the way down. But sure enough, this little piece over in here was all cracked out. And then as I hit it with the Dremel and I hit it here, all of a sudden this piece fell off and it went into the vacuum cleaner. Because I always Dremel with a vacuum cleaner next to me with the stuff. So even though I lost it, it's not a big deal, because it would be very hard to fit that piece back in there and then use the Aves and everything. So it's better for me just to throw a bunch of Aves and resculpt this whole area, because I figured that was going to have to happen anyway. Stuff like this, you run into these problems and you got to go with it. Now I just got to be careful though not to bend this, because we want to keep his arm, straight. We don't want to bend it and then start doing it and all of a sudden it's got this weird curve. So it's a good thing that there's a really thick metal rod in there, and it's also good that Aves is going to be hitting the metal rod. Now, as you can see, I Dremeled out this little piece here. There's a little tiny piece there, a little bit there, a little bit there, here and here. It's kind of like a stapling effect. The Aves is going to kind of grab onto all these corners, and it's going to help with the crack, and it's going to keep it together. So this way, if you just do one Dremel piece around and you put Aves in, it could split, but this kind of helped a little bit. And there's really no need to throw any rods in there, because there is already a rod here. So it's just a matter of that staple effect. Now, because he is like pale skin, there's no reason to do like a color Aves, like a red or the natural colors, and then try to touch it up. What I like to do is I used to like to use this white, well, it's Aves Fix It. It's kind of like a white when you're pretty much done with it. I used to only use this stuff for hair whenever I sculpt hair, but for a project like this, I'll mix them up and I'll fill it in here. I'll sand this down, and then what I'll probably do is mix, mask off around the arm area, hit it with some clear primer, but we'll get onto that down the line, and then touch it up. So that's kind of where we're at now. And next step is mix up some Aves and just start patching them up. Okay, so we're ready to start patching up this arm now. Wrap them up in some saran wrap. Don't have to go crazy and tighten it up. You don't want to, like, you know, tighten it and break something, snap, or maybe pull off paint by accident, depending on what the item is. This is a factory from China item, so it's not really going to do much, but sometimes, you know, fresh paints on a statue, you can risk messing something up, but this will be alright for this project. So we got the A's all mixed up, ready to go. Working on a couple projects now, so I'm adding this into the mix. I have my paintbrush, which I always use to smooth everything out. You get lots of different paintbrushes. I've explained this a couple times in videos, but you know, any kind of paintbrushes like this you can use. After a while, if you're not careful, you don't clean them, they turn hard as a rock, like this one here. But this you can still use for, like, when I sculpt, like these little, you know, the way the brush is, you can use if you're doing rocks or textures or something. So I don't always throw these away. I got like a bin over here I throw them in. So I always keep any messed up brushes because you never know if you can use them for something. But, you know, it all depends on what kind of brushes you get. I get cheap ones at the art store. They're like, it used to be around like $1.50, $1.60, but now they've gone up to at least about $2 or so. But they work out pretty good. And this is Aves Studio Safety Solvent. I use this to smooth out Aves. I use it to soften it up. It's really great to clean out the brushes. So we're just going to keep going, plugging away on this. I'm going to do a fast video on it because it's going to take a while. I need to kick on some music too and just kind of zone out and just patch it up. Okay, so I patched it all up for now. It's not exactly perfect. It's kind of big in some areas and smaller in others right now. That's because I'm going to let this cure and sand it up tomorrow. It's very hard to kind of get this stuff exactly the way it was, but we're going to get it as close as possible. If I see anything like now, I'm looking at it, it's possible that this one little piece over here just needs to be pulled down a little bit more. So just kind of pull it down. But when I do some sand work tomorrow, it'll kind of come together. Now, working with safety solvent over paint, you can kind of see right here, the safety solvent is almost kind of like, I'm not saying it's an acetone, I'm not saying it's kind of something that really softens up the A's, but it doesn't like mess it up, so it lets it cure. But it does pull up paints, as you can see, and it does kind of deteriorate glue after a while. So if you have some super glue on your fingers, it'll kind of take it off after a little while. But it works out fine. Like, I was going to touch all this up anyway, so it didn't really matter I hit this. But one of the good things about safety solvent for me is when I do this type of work on an arm, it gives me an idea on how this stuff was kind of layered. So what they do is they did some kind of like a flesh tone base on him, and then what they did is some kind of washing around it, and they dirtied it up. So that's going to give me an idea on how to match this up, so it helps me out a lot. So we're going to let this cure for the night. Tomorrow we'll go over some sand work, you know, sand it up, get it nice and even. And if there's any more patching, we'll go over that. And then we just got to touch it up with paint. Alright, so we're going to try to get the base coat to match what's here. So looking at my paints, I got this Aged Bone from Garage Kit Colors. I think this will be a really good color to mix with this flesh tone from Garage Kits. So we're going to try to see if we can get this kind of matching up. I don't really think anything out of the bottle is going to match these colors really, because this is kind of like a pale, very palish, yellowish, grayish type of skin tone, but underneath the palms is kind of like flesh. So it's kind of a weird mix. Now this aged bone is kind of gray, and I think just getting it with this flesh tone would kind of get me the color I'm looking for. So what we do is we kind of it's a little too, it's got to have a little bit of a red in there. So I think what we'll do is we'll grab some Garage Kit's tongue color, which is kind of like a pinkish. Get that going there. See how this matches up. Alright, I'm gonna have to blend some of the tongue a little bit more. But I'm just doing a base coat for now, and it's looking like I got a lot of mistakes out of there, so we're looking pretty good on that route. Maybe a little bit right there. Let's see. Alright, so that's looking alright. It's a little too grayish, so what I like to do is get a blow dryer, hit that up. Alright, so now this is kind of where the blending starts coming into effect. Let's see. Look at this in the light a little bit. Okay, so gotta get this paint out of the cup. Throw a little bit of the tongue color in. Get a little bit in here like that. And then with that, we'll mix some of the flesh tone again. Gotta trying to do this so I can show the camera while making sure I'm matching the color up. Yeah, we're looking pretty good now. Alright, so I think we got the base color pretty good. It may look really different in camera, but I think the base color is looking great. So it probably needs a little bit of like a yellowish hint to it. So what we might do now is just so we'll grab a drop or two of this yellow, just maybe one drop, and then we'll go back to some of this aged bone and just kind of Alright, so now I got another color too, which is called sandstone. I think this sandstone might work pretty good, but it dries up at the bottom a little bit if you don't use it for a while. So what I like to do is just grab these pliers and just kind of crack up the paint just a little bit, not much. You don't want to destroy the bottle. Okay, and hit this in here. Always dries up at the tip a little bit, and okay. Okay, I think we're looking good on at least the base coat. So the next is going to let this dry up, and then we could start doing some washes and making it dirty to kind of match up the rest of the skin. But I'm going to have to kind of pull out the saran wrap to do all that. But otherwise, we're looking good. Alright, so we got to try to kind of match this like little brush-like effects you can see on this arm here. I'm not sure if it's showing in too well, but we got to kind of match that up now around the hands and sort of stuff. So I have these old paint brushes. These are stuff I've used to use sculpting with, but I never throw these away. I always let them pile up over here, as you can kind of see. Just got a pile of stuff over there, always using stuff. So every time I clean, and 2 days later, it's a pile again. But this is still fairly soft, so it's good. It's not hard as a rock yet. So something like this works out pretty good. So I have this surface primer, black. This stuff dries. It kind of dries very like flat. So I need a drop or two. Nothing crazy on here. And then what we do is we take it and for here we just start going, trying to match it up. Try to let the brushes kind of hit it. And kind of hit around the arm. Don't worry about like licking your finger and kind of rubbing it around. It doesn't really matter. It's supposed to be messy. And not every single statue is painted the same anyway from the factory, so you can have your fun with it. So just kind of seeing how the factory did it, try to match it. Get a little bit more paint, but it's kind of like dry brushing. You're just kind of hitting it with the very dryness of the tips of the brushes. So pretty much got it matched up pretty well. I mean, it looks dirty now. It kind of, when he's sitting in the base, I guess he sits like this. You're not really going to see that much anyway. But at least this isn't banged up too well. And if you want, you can kind of, probably a lot of people say you shouldn't actually lick your finger after licking the paint, but who the hell cares? Just kind of dirty it up in areas, let the paint kind of go around. I think we're looking pretty good. Yeah, alright, so we're pretty much patched up. We pretty much matched the paint. And pretty much all I have to do now is seal it. But other than that, that's it. That's pretty much a repair on this Lord of the Rings. What is this, Gollum? Hopefully that's the name, I forget. But we're looking good. So what I'll do is I'll take some pics, send it off to the client, see what he says, and then pretty much get it out to him. Alright, so after I did all my little touching up and stuff, I kind of stopped and I was looking at the camera and everything. So I just need to kind of lighten it back up again. So I'm just going to hit it with some, what I have here is Transparency Garage Kits Flesh. This is great for kind of blending out some areas that might have went a little too much. Tone down the black a little bit. And then you could kind of hit the shoulder or the back. Kind of blend out some of these colors. So that's looking a little bit. I think my studio lights are really bad. I have it set up for, you know, for the way I paint and to get my colors right, but the camera, it's not set up correctly, so you might be seeing like weird stuff going on. But I think that's looking pretty good. Yeah, so that's looking good. So all I have to really do now is kind of seal it. I'll hit it with some Tester's Dull Coat tomorrow, maybe. I want to let this kind of set up a little bit, but yeah, other than that, looks pretty good. So that's pretty much it. So hopefully you guys like the way it came out. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back with some more videos.
Precious!